Important midnight updates. Blizzard just broke healers, and they're not taking it well? Oh, no. Oh, I thought Blizzard was trying to buff healers recently. I know, look, healers and tanks have not been in a good spot this entire expansion, if I'm being honest. That's why, like, nobody's playing them. And so if Blizzard mucks this up anymore, we just might be running 5-man DPS groups at this point. We'll see what it's all about, but let's see here what Blizzard has broken, or at least what they're trying to change here with healers. Let's check this one out from Bellular.
Welcome back to the Warcraft News. We have a lot to talk about today. Thanks to a calendar event on the alpha, we actually might have a late release date for midnight. We've also got a tweet from Holly promising the beta to be sooner than we may have thought, and loads of amazing alpha updates, including something that will make healers happy. Hopefully. But of course, it would not be the Warcraft News without a bit of controversy. That's because this week's alpha shipped a huge change, and it is one that will either save WoW dungeons or doom both DPS and healers forever. Blizzard seems to have this problem more often than they really should, but basically whenever this week's alpha came up, there was a placeholder world event in the database, and rather curiously, they have different regions and dates, but they all, they all last from late January to early March, and as Wowhead points out, they last for 6 weeks, and 6 weeks is pretty much the length of an in-game pre-patch event, and they actually point to something kind of unsurprising, and that is a release date. A release date of Tuesday, the 10th of March. That would
see, this right now, this all conflates with what we just saw with this new splash screen and the potential release date in January. So right now, we just got this data. This is probably post this video from Bellular here, but this is what people are seeing now, that pre-patch will actually be launching in January, leading to a late January launch of the expansion. I don't know which to believe right now. So like, we got a March release date out there. We got a January release date out there. What could these world events be? Could these world events that Bellular is talking about be something that happens post-expansion launch? I'm not sure. But there's a lot of shit going on. The one thing that I'm confused about is we have these Twilight Cultist event. This is confirmed now as a pre-patch event. And then we saw in the cinematic those big, giant, swirly boys in the sky with a bunch of void shit raining down. Could that be a post-launch event? I don't know. Maybe Blizzard's going to change it up on us this time around. But yeah, we got basically out there right now predictions of January all the way to March. It's a pretty decent range of dates being predicted.
The pre-patch being on the 27th of January. Now, if this surprises you because Blizzard's own pre-order page said June 30th at the latest, let me explain. They're basically, when they say that, making sure that they don't accidentally lie to you whenever you're making a pre-order purchase. Basically, if they said that they were releasing in March at the latest, and then something came up forcing them to delay, it would put them at substantial risk. That's why those things they put in their website are always extremely conservative. And right now, Battle.net's refund policy says you can't get a ref, and it has in-game content that is immediately redeemed, things like the level boost and Trader's Tender. But if they missed that date, then you could potentially argue for a refund by claiming that they breached their own advertising terms.
Yeah,
so by announcing it with the 30th of June, they essentially have wiggle room to do a delay without really having to worry about the financial impact of loads of people doing refunds.
So, I mean, if we want to be safe here and not be wrong, basically you got a late January to March release date window at this point, all of which I'd be okay with. But that's kind of the date range they got right now. And I'm guessing a lot of this will be based on how comfortable they feel with the class changes and everything else they've implemented in the game. Is it ready to launch? And then, of course, they'll say, actually, it's ready to launch. And then when they do, it's broken. And that's probably what will happen.
Anyway, March 10th. Save that date. It's very likely to be the date you'll be playing this expansion.
I actually think we'll get it sooner than that.
Terribly wrong during the beta. And speaking of the beta, we're close to that. Holly managed to break herself free from playing Legion Remix to do a tweet. She talked about her new druid, but importantly said, beta soon. And I know soon doesn't really mean a lot, but I think I do know what she means. Take a look at this. They laid out here a beautiful looking roadmap for the alpha with 5 phases. Now, the 5th and final phase is this week. So once that's over, yeah, we would actually expect the beta. And that means you should go to the Warcraft site and opt in for the beta if you want to check it out. The other thing you could do is go and buy the Epic Edition, because that does guarantee you'll get beta access, but it doesn't guarantee you'll get it immediately. But essentially, if you're asking me, beta's probably going to start next week. And another thing...
That would be crazy. Shit, I got to pre-order my Epic Edition. I've given away Epic Editions, but I haven't even pre-ordered it myself. I got to do that. Because, yeah, beta access, why not? go create a devourer or something.
Tinker in the tweet. Yeah.
That's right. I didn't even notice this, and somebody had commented this in a video not too long ago for me. She mentioned the word tinker in the tweet. It's right there. As we tinker our way into midnight. Is she dropping a hint, or are people just literally, anytime the word tinker comes up, they lose their fucking minds? Could we be getting a tinker class at midnight? I'd still say probably not. But yeah, interesting.
The word.
Interesting word choice.
So who knows, maybe that means we are getting the Tinker class later on in Midnight. If so, then you heard it here first. But speaking of what we're actually getting in Midnight, well, how does a full new set of raid frames sound? Because apparently, they listened. The complaints from healers about losing the likes of Cell and Healbot did not fall on deaf ears. Being real, the current in-game frames completely blow for healing. So what Blizzard have done is they've finally shown off improved raid frames.
Yeah, these look great.
These look just that little bit nicer than before, but with huge upgrades. We have new highlights for dispellable debuff.
I love this little debuff thing here. Looks like a little poison on the person.
New layout options, vastly improved buff and debuff tracking. Certain debuffs can actually be flagged in Blizzard's end. Things like tank swap debuffs, and those will be made more
Hell yeah.
So it should actually, surface information to you in a way that's actually actionable. But there's more than just that. There's something else massive as well, and that is that major defensive cooldowns will be shown as well. Now,
nice.
Not everything's perfect. There will not be white.
This is great for tanking and the tank swap mechanics and everything else. So finally, we won't have to arbitrarily figure out when tank swapping is occurring, or better yet, just download an add-on so it tells you to taunt. Now we'll have that mechanic built into the game. Wonderful.
Listing or blacklisting. And that has rubbed some people the wrong way. Basically, Blizzard are kind of keeping their line in the sand here. They're essentially saying, we decide what information is important. I totally get people not liking that, but at least with it in mind, these do look like a substantial improvement. And even take a look at this new line of sight indicator. It's
wow.
nice, I would say. And
that
remember,
is nice.
This is only the first iteration. So overall, a lot of people were worried. But in dropping this screenshot, I think Blizzard have just allayed a lot of fears.
I thought this was a DC at first. Yeah, it's a line of sight. That's pretty cool.
But they've not allayed all of the fears. Blizzard also used this opportunity to address a few more things, like, as an example, their new extra text-to-speech alerts for a ton of non-combat states, but also the types of things that they want add-ons to be capable of. Now, the examples they gave are of boss warnings, where add-ons will be able to add custom events like break timers to the boss warnings. They can also create cooldown bars just like the old DBM and Bigwig's default.
Nice.
Then another huge feature they want to save is custom nameplate styles. Which honestly, I think is a pretty huge one personally.
Yeah.
Now, they say that add-ons will be able to tell when a cast is labeled as important by the game. And then, seeing that, they can animate or maybe change the bar differently to how the game would do it itself.
Right. People who are worried about aesthetic changes, you'll be able to download add-ons still for aesthetic purposes. It's just like the combat-related shit. That's not going to be something you could download add-ons for anymore. But you want your nameplates to look a certain way still, you'll be able to do that. Whether it's through in-game customizations or downloading your add-ons, so that way, your Hello Kitty overlay on your nameplates will still be available.
Now, the add-on wouldn't be able to say, if this specific ability is used, then change the visual. No. What it's able to see is simply, has Blizzard marked it as important?
Right. So you're still limited in terms of what the add-on can tell you to do. But Blizzard basically categorizing a bunch of casts as important, that's something that'll be accessible to the add-on, but not which abilities of those important abilities are actually going off. But this is cool. I'm wondering if this is going to be bright enough. This cast bar looks a little bit tiny to me. We'll see how bright this actual flash is to indicate that you should interrupt this.
It as important or not. So not full customization, but basically, if you want an extremely highlighted bar that will tell you something really important that you need to know, then an add-on should actually be able to do that. It just won't be able to highlight a specific spell that Blizzard don't flag as being important. And as it turns out, because of another bunch of changes, this feature may be even more important if you are a DPS. Because guess what? Congratulations, you've got a new job. Tell me if you've heard this before, that healers have just been massively nerfed heading into dungeons, but that also the dungeons are taking that into account. All for the healers' good.
Right, no more interrupts from healers. That's right. And this is not really a what's it called? A reduction or a nerf to healing. I would say it's a buff to healing, because it's going to let healers focus on healing more. and it's going to put the onus to interrupt things on the tank and on the DPS. Now, are they going to do that, or are they just going to continue parsing their asses off and ignoring shit? Maybe, and that's why the group's going to die. But now at least healers, I mean, between dispels, interrupts, and then healing, healers got a lot of shit to do. You gotta, there should be a local, like, respect your healer day or recognize your healer day, because they do got a lot on their plate. So taking this away from them, yeah, we'll let them focus a little bit more on healing and less so on interrupting.
You really do seem to go through this cycle just about every expansion. It's happening again, but I think it's happening
it's a
to
good change.
far greater degree than almost ever before. So, Blizzard have removed healer interrupts. So DPS players, congratulations, you're in work. Healers are freed from the burden of doing interrupts. But obviously, this is controversial, and a lot of healer mains are absolutely crashing out.
I'm sure they're mad, like solo content. I don't know how. I really don't know how Blizzard are going to do that. But like delves and things like that, yeah, you can't interrupt anymore. So how do you handle that? I'm not exactly sure, honestly. How do they handle solo content going forward without the ability to interrupt? I guess they just have like a bubble or something. I'm not sure.
That's it. So, in a blue post, Blizzard said that healing is stressful, that watching enemy cast bars was a little too much on top of everything else that healers have got to do. So because of this, they removed everyone's interrupt.
Play Resto Shaman. Yeah, Resto Shaman, by the way, yeah, they will keep it. Wind Shear will still be around. It'll just be a 30-second cooldown, so that'll be, use it sparsely. Yeah, but Resto Shaman, right. Maybe they're going to be the S-tier healer this season.
Except for Resto Shaman's Wind Shear, but Wind Shear has got a 30-second cooldown now. Kind of wild. Now, they do say
that's a long
just
cooldown.
Solo content so that healers will actually be able to solo things even though they don't have regular interrupts.
Okay, so there you go. Solo content won't require as much interrupting, and that's how they're going to get around it. So they're going to make the game around the fact that they know healers can't interrupt.
Or in most cases, interrupts at all. Wild. Honestly, this is kind of crazy. It's caused absolute chaos, and I totally get why. And it's for one major reason. This does not actually make healing less stressful, guys. It really doesn't. Now, on paper, it does diminish an area of responsibility, and that lets healers focus on their healing.
Yeah.
But in reality, it will make healers' lives harder, at least in my opinion. You see, a lot of healers are basically saying that now they're terrified of Mythic Plus, because they can't trust their DPS players to interrupt.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Really? You're scared of group content because you can't trust the people in your group to do the things they're supposed to do? What? What kind of excuse is that? No, I don't think this makes things harder for healers. I don't. I still think it makes things easier. It just takes a responsibility away from them. I think that's you're worried about... What? What kind of jacked excuse is that? First of all, look, if you don't want to be stressed, don't heal. That's for sure. Again, and even if you don't want to be stressed, don't tank. You don't want pressure on you, don't tank. Just do DPS, okay? That's what it is. At the end of the day, I mean, tanking and healing will always be very important roles, and when a role is important, guess what that means? There's some pressure on you. Now, some people thrive under that pressure, and some people wilt like a little bitch, okay? I like to tank because I do like the added feeling of being the leader, deciding what happens next, that responsibility of holding aggro and keeping all the shit together. I like that feeling. I don't want to just sit back in DPS, but some people do, and that's okay. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, tanks should have less stress. No, fuck. I mean, it's part of the role. You've accepted that stress when you accept the role. But the excuse that, now I'm more stressed about tanking because I can't rely on other people to do their jobs, that's kind of a silly excuse. Yeah, wiping the group too. Yeah, I enjoy wiping the group too, of course.
See, that's the thing with healers. Yeah.
If anyone's wiping this fucking group, it's me.
Sometimes shitbrain and don't do things. So the healers end up stepping in to help. And because of that, the healers actually got to have successful Mythic Plus runs. The worry for the healers
this was the tally's right here. This was my concern initially, was like, okay, but what about solo content? But I guess they're just going to make solo content not really require interrupts anymore.
They're going to enter the same world of dungeons with DPS players who, haven't really taken on their new responsibility, meaning that they are just going to have to be forced to heal through the consequences of people not doing interrupts because they themselves can't do the interrupts. And it's further compounded by an age-old truth that player health bars are a healer problem.
Right, Monarch.
Even if the DPS player is standing in the fire or has missed an interrupt, no. The health bar hits 0, and health bars are the healer's problem. Now, obviously, that's not even close to true, but let's be real.
It is true, though.
A lot of flaming goes in dungeons.
Yeah.
And because of this, some high-end healers are basically calling this a complete destruction of skill expression for healers, all in an expansion where they're already being pruned and simplified. And the fear is that healers will now just be spamming heals in dungeons instead of using their other utility and fun tools. Now, obviously, some other people are pleased.
Yeah, I
because
think they
this as
should be
Blizzard
pleased.
trying to get more people into healing. Of course, doing that by saying, hey, healers have got less responsibility and they are a bit
I mean, I just don't understand that argument about responsibility being taken away from you and healers saying, well, oh man, that's not good because now I can't be responsible. What? Should they just make healers in charge of aggro too? Just add that on their plate? I wonder if Blizzard had gone the opposite direction and added another thing on healers' plates that they would have been like, oh, perfect. Now we don't have to worry about the tank being bad. We can also hold aggro. What the shit? I think overall this will be a good thing for healers.
simple, reduced barrier to entry. But in a vacuum, it seems that this, while it maybe has some good intentions, is quite a misguided idea. But the good news is it's not in a vacuum, because in the same breath, Blizzard posted their plans to change mob casts in the Midnight expansion. This is huge. So here goes.
Right.
Whenever ranged enemies cast bolts, which are basically just those targeted spells that chunk players' health, well, now they will make an effort to evenly spread the damage across players. So you see, right now, bolt slop packs have got a rather horrible tendency where they're all just lock on to the same person with multiple bolts at once.
Blast
A
them.
bit like clicking in an Age of Empires NPC and clicking the delete button and then just going, oh! Yeah, a bit like that, but for, a DPS player. Now, this would lead to a lot of people needing massive weak auras that basically scream at the target so that they can pop their defensives to survive. So the hope is that by removing that behavior, they should also remove the need for add-ons basically existing to get
Right.
around that problem.
And they're going to indicate with that new important cast thing that we just looked at, like they're going to indicate the casts that you can just ignore kind of and heal through them, or the ones that that really need to be interrupted. So there's going to be less times when you have to interrupt, and the interrupts are going to be more obvious. So this should be an easier change all around, and healers won't have to worry about it at all. That's what I think. Max, Sam, are you excited about healers not having to kick? I think it's a good thing. I do. I think it's a better thing for them. Let them focus on the shit they need to focus on. There's 4 other people in the group or 29 other people in the raid that can interrupt. Why do they need to do it? That's fine. I mean, probably not 29 people in the raid because you need more than one healer, but you get what I'm saying.
Problem. And it should also be less punishing if casts go through, because they'll be more spread around. In theory, that sounds quite good to me, but I actually think the change could go either ways. Maybe DPS players will learn to interrupt. Maybe more healers will feel comfortable playing the game. Or maybe this will make healing more stressful. Because one of the most important things to mitigate stress is to give people a sense of agency. Because that basically says to, our monkey brains from the trees in the savannah, oh, that's okay, I can solve that problem. And that means that you don't feel despair, right? But
but you put too many problems on a person to solve, and they're going to get stressed out about that too. There's a balance there. So taking a responsibility away from them can also be a relief. And then they can handle the responsibilities they still have better. Like I said, so if they add the ability to hold aggro on healers as well, so now the healers are going to feel better because now they can also tank and interrupt and deal with and DPS and heal. I don't think that would be the correct direction to go. I think this is the right move. I do.
Where Blizzard have taken away some of your tools to free you from the burden of needing them. Well, what happens if you end up in a situation where you still feel like you need them, but now you don't have them? What you have there is more stress, and that could be bad. The worry then is that if
Then just do solo content, I guess, if you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to deal with relying on other people to get shit done, then just do solo shit.
If your fate is in the hands of a Beast Mastery Hunter who's got his game muted and Netflix open, well then this is just going to be more stressful for you. Now that being said, the good news here
Says
is
the
that
guy who
Midnight
barely
Dungeons
does tests.
already feel lighter on casts so far. So hopefully this does not result in the exact opposite of what Blizzard wants it to. But hey, at least Blizzard are also giving you some new add-on replacing tools. One of them is this, External Defensives Tracking. Basically, there's a new buff tracker that you can turn on for externals. Like with everything else, this is the Blizzard version. You can't choose what it tracks. Blizzard will just set the list of externals, and then this will show you when those things are active on you. Certainly less powerful than an add-on, but everyone will have it, and it should mean no more double defensives on you by accident. The second thing they've added is raid buff tracking, where basically if someone in your group doesn't have a raid buff that you can apply, it'll glow for you. And there's another one as well. Whenever someone dies and you have a battle res available, your battle res will actually glow to alert you. So what we basically see here...
Then it won't glow because somebody fucking B-res that first DPS that died in the first 3 seconds of the fight. Thank you very much. Stop doing that shit. You gotta save the B-res for the tanks and the healers. But that's a nice thing, honestly. Good quality of life change that, yeah, you can actually... It'll glow when you have it, rather than having to kind of gaze down real quick and check if you got it.
Is that Blizzard are...
Save the BR for Sam.
...on the add-on replacing Crusade. And they're on that, especially this week, with us seeing all of these new tracking things, as well as the game's new unit frames. So at this rate, I would expect even more next week in the alpha's final phase. Once alpha ticks on, it will be in beta, and that's when I'd expect to get less new features and more just them polishing up what they've got for launch. But speaking of alpha, Blizzard have just made a bit of an alpha move, but not on the alpha. They've actually done it on the PTR for patch 11.2.7, where what they've done is they've kind of went back and destroyed loads of Shadowlands lore that people didn't really like. It's actually more complicated than that, but seriously, if you're into the lore, if Shadowlands shook your faith in things, then you have got to watch this video next, because it is them undoing and fixing up some of their worst story mistakes, and they're setting up a future that genuinely looks better.
Good shit. Yeah, good shit overall. So is there going to be an option to track interrupts and B-res or no? Yeah, there will. What do you mean? Yeah, you'll be able to track interrupts. It'll be there in the new UI that Blizzard's creating. So both in the cast bars and stuff, and in general. With the B-reses, you'll be able to see the little glowy boy. You can actually see if a person's in line of sight, so that's pretty cool too. I mean, everything should be trackable, and there's another thing that I think people are missing is there's going to be a lot less of everything. There's going to be less casts to deal with, less spells to deal with, less mechanics to deal with. The game is going to be simplified because of the removal of add-ons and everything else going on. So, less shit to deal with.
Use another Death Knight.
Hebby, thank you for the sub. Thank you so much. It's coming in with the Prime. What Death Knight of our Scourge. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Heebie-jeebies, I should say. Yeah, I think these are all good changes. And again, healers complaining about loss of agency. I mean, come on. We're trying to help you out here. You got less shit to worry about then. Yes, you're putting responsibility on other people, but that's the folly of group content. If you don't want to deal with other people, then don't do group content, I guess. Nice video here from Bellular.